we were literally just talking about a Bubic deal on Friday or on Thursday and Friday.
Mm-hmm.
And listen, I think it makes a lot of I guess my thing is like I get why it makes sense from the Cardinals' perspective on some factors. The fact that he doesn't have a long track record really throws me off. If I'm the Cardinals, that's my big thing is like are you guys not terrified of a 1 year? The guy has one legitimate season as a Major League Baseball starter, and he also only has one more year of control instead of multiple years of control.
Okay.
The same thing is true for a Stephen Kolek, but at least he's not arbitration eligible till 2028, and his free agent year is 2031.
But what's he done?
Again, I'm saying all that's true with Stephen Kolek, but I'm saying he has a lot more years of control. So you can, actually maybe project something down the line as you grow this team. Yeah. And that's kind of why my question right now is, do you need to acquire MLB innings for 2026? Because something that I'm seeing in a lot of the comments on our videos, and you guys are doing great. We read those comments and we read all your chats here throughout the show. On the show you did with Joe Roderick on Friday, which was fantastic. When people are talking about the Brendan Donovan trades, I know Ethan and Luke did a big show on the Houston Astros potential trade projections, and a lot of the comments I'm seeing from people are, there's one camp which are more okay with trading Brendan Donovan. I think we're talking about the longer scope of the Cardinals and saying, do you need to get immediate MLB innings from this trade?
You do.
Or should we be looking at prioritizing if you're going to trade Brendan Donovan? If one of the reasons that you're going to trade Brendan Donovan is his value's at its highest point right now, then should the Cardinals also be looking to maximize the value they're receiving, which is maybe taking a prospect who has a longer road to the MLB than a guy like Bubic or Kolek, who are already major league pitchers but have a lot of question marks around them. Maybe take a guy who literally projects as somebody who can go 180 innings, who can give you multiple years of starting, instead of taking a Bubic who goes 130 and has one major league season where he's done it.
Yeah, I think that's a legitimate question. Even though he has done that, he was an all-star pitcher. He did have a 2.55 earned run average last year in the 116 that he threw. And you have a better idea of him because he's got a major league pedigree than you do of anybody who hasn't pitched 6 years in the majors. Let's make one thing clear here. Just because you get a guy with 1 year left on his contract, that doesn't mean you can't sign him. You're allowed to sign players when you trade for them.
No, Matt Holliday skipped off after the trade and became a star for I want to say the Texas Rangers.
No. Mark McGwire. No.
Big Rockies guy.
Jim Edmonds.
Minnesota Twins.
No. Darryl Kyle. No. No, Darryl Kyle signed an extension with the Cardinals.
Skywalker 92. Yep. But you would only get Bubic for a year. If I trade Donovan, I want a pitcher that has several years left.
And that is not a given. Just because you trade for a guy with only a year left on his contract, that doesn't mean you can't extend him. I think there's sometimes a belief that everybody just has to go into free agency and leave, and that is not the case. Now, many times pitchers or players do leave. John Lackey left after a year. The Cardinals lost Jordan Montgomery after a year. Did they trade him? No, they traded him.
Yeah, they traded him.
Yeah.
They shipped his ass out. Space says here, I agree, Donnie, for prospects. Will give us the best possible prospects out of all the players we are trying to move. Like, from that perspective, I completely see that line of thought because you're accepting the general consensus, which is you're trading Brendan Donovan because for the years that he is most likely to be on the Cardinals, they will not be competitive. And if 2026 is not going to be a competitive year, why does it matter whether or not a guy that they trade for is pitching in that 4 spot, or a guy they pay $8 million who's going to get shellacked for a 5 ERA is pitching in that spot?
And I don't know about you guys, I have to come to grips with the idea that the Cardinals are going to be way better at scouting other teams' players now than they have been in the past.
In fairness, Bernie Miklasz, I believe he just dropped this on STLSportsCentral.com, talking about how one of the biggest things that Chaim Bloom is excited for with the expansion of his scouting roles is that they can hopefully have a greater, nexus of knowledge in these trade discussions. I actually think it was the video that Bernie might be going up today or tomorrow on STL Sports Central. So he actually just focused on how the improvement in the scouting isn't just about players in the draft and the international players. Right. It is about pro scouting in these trades. So Chaim is arguing that they're going to be better at evaluating players in trades.
When they traded Tyler O'Neill to Boston, the players that they got back didn't. Well, they did leave kind of a lot to be desired. They got Victor Santos and Nick Robertson. And then when they made and not that Dylan Carlson wound up being a star or anything, but they got back Sean Armstrong and wound up DFAing him within 3 weeks. And so they weren't really happy with the return they got for those two outfielders. And they are trying to be better, and they need to be better in that regard. So one of the reasons that I would take a Bubic is because he's more of a known quantity. But if you have faith that the Cardinals can scout stuff and ability and properly project pitchers, and you anticipate that they're going to be able to do that, then you do that with Donovan. I just think that with Brendan Donovan being a valuable commodity, if there truly are, as Derek Gould posted at stltoday.com, if there are 15 teams interested in Brendan Donovan, one of them has to be able to give you a pitcher that you can use in 2026. And it's not going to do the Cardinals any good to get several guys that are pitching in the minors in 2026. You've got right now, because Sonny Gray's not going to be here. They're getting rid of Sonny Gray. So you're going to have Liberatore. You're going to have McGreevy. You're going to have Palante. You're going to have Leahy.
Matthews.
Matthews. Maybe Quinn Matthews, who had a rugged year at AAA. Zerpi is hurt. Hence has been hurt. The other Takoa Roby is hurt. He's out. Tommy John.
I'm going to pay Adrian Howler $15 million.
Why not trade for Kris Bubic?
Because Kris Bubic.
What's the point of giving Adrian Hauser $15 million?
No such thing as a bad 1-year contract. It can be a wasted trade of your best, most valuable player.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to avoid compromising the value of the trade by prioritizing 2026 over the future, which is, and if we look at, I think we got to go back to Chaim Bloom's introductory press conference when he says that they're going to try to win now, but they will not prioritize winning now over the future. Trading for Kris Bubic or trading for enforcing major league innings in 2026 instead of trying to optimize the prospect haul you can get from Brendan Donovan would be prioritizing 2026 over the future. So definitionally.
Would you rather have a guy like Bubic, who you'd have to extend? Would you rather have somebody that you feel confident about that is pitched at the major league level, or somebody who you just don't know about, but is going to cost less for the 6 years that you have the pitcher? So you got both pitchers for 6 years. One of them is going to cost less because he's never pitched in the majors before. So you've got 3, and then you've got 3 years of arbitration. But he's a 5.5 ERA guy. He's a young Miles Michaelis. Or would you rather have a guy that had a 2.5 ERA last year and has shown that he can pitch effectively at the major league level, and have him for 6 years?
I think that's fair, but at the same time, like I part of me, and listen, players grow, but is it fair for me to look at the 9-20 record and a 5.0 ERA across the 21 and 22 seasons for Bubic?
Yeah. So
when he was struggling, his FIP was almost a 5.0.
So do we have what's our confidence level in Matthew Liberatore then?
It's a little bit different because Matthew Liberatore was also a higher rated prospect than Bubic, and so there's that level of it all. He was a first round pick, wasn't he?
Liberatore was?
Yeah,
wasn't Bubic?
Yeah, Bubic was 40th overall.
So it's I especially with left-handed pitchers.
Yeah, that's fair. Takes him a while to really lock in, and that's a good point. And he does have a longer track record than other players, and maybe that's something to actually look for. This could be Ben. If we aren't expecting to contend this year, we should trade Donovan for years of control.
Again, if it's years of quality control, yes, but I don't want to trade for mediocrity. If I'm going to trade Brendan Donovan, I want to get something good back. I don't want to trade for.
Well, no one's saying trade for mediocrity. People are saying trade for potential. It could. Yes, potential can lead to mediocrity, but I mean, you're not guaranteed that Kris Bubic is going to be this high-level pitcher either. There's a better chance. I guess you could argue there's a better chance because he was just an all-star than any random minor leaguer based on the amount of minor leaguers who don't ever succeed.
Hey,
but
would I rather have an Emmet Sheehan for Donovan? Absolutely. 100%.
100%.
And
I'd much rather have Noah Cameron than Kris Bubic too.
So,
they ain't giving him.
But if you can make a trade, if Houston is willing to give you a young starting pitcher, young controllable starting pitcher, if you can get one of the young starting controllable pitchers from Cleveland, would I rather have Tanner Bibee? Yes, I would. Would I rather have Gavin Williams? Yes, I'd rather have him than Kris Bubic.
Corey lands with you on this one. The team control is kind of up to us, isn't it? If he's that good, give him the extension.
Yeah, that's you are allowed to sign that guy. Yeah.
But this week Ben does say extending can cost way more money, and the ownership is a little cheap. They're not cheap. They want to spend money the right way, and right now they don't have a lot of the correct players to spend that on.
Yeah. Craig Lewis, Randy Moe is gone, and Bloom can pick the players better than Moe. I have no doubt about that. When you look at what the Red Sox had in terms of the system that they had at the beginning of last year, that seems to be the case. But that being said, I don't think there's any guarantees, and nobody is 100%. Even Walt Jocketty wasn't 100%. He traded Dimitri Young for Jeff Brantley, for gosh sakes. So, and Walt was legendary. He was awesome. He didn't make many bad trades, but he did make one or two. So yeah, nobody is perfect. And I just think that with the first big deal that you're going to make in moving Brendan Donovan, here's my big thing. I would auction him off. And then you've got scouts and you've got people. If you really truly have 15 teams interested, you say, okay, give me your best offer. And we're going to sift through these 15 offers for Brendan Donovan and pick out the best one. And I would hope that at some point you'll run across an offer where you say, okay, do it exactly what Chaim Bloom said last week at the winter meetings that they want to do. Get a major league starter for 2026 and then get one or two to, as he called it, warehouse in AAA in case they need somebody for 2026. Here's the big news. It's almost your turn in Missouri to get into the game because DraftKings Sportsbook is coming to the Show Me State on December 1st. And pretty soon, you're going to be able to get fast payouts when you win, a safe and secure app that's easy to use, and promos that keep the action going all season long. No wonder it's America's top-rated sportsbook app. The countdown is on. New customers sign up right now and score $300 in bonus bets on launch day, December 1st. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code STL Sports, the one that's right there on your screen. The crown is yours in partnership with DraftKings Sportsbook.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. 21 and over. Physically present in Missouri. Eligibility and restrictions apply. Subject to regulatory licensing requirements. Bonus bets are non-withdrawable and expire 7 days after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see sportsbook.draftkings.com/promos.
But I just think it's imperative that the Cardinals have a pitcher for 2026. And I don't think they want to overpay. I mean, $15 million for Adrian Hauser for this team. What would the point be? I'd rather spend
to fill the innings
half of that
and not expose.
Yeah, I'd rather spend half of that.
It's about but it's you're paying $50 million to fill innings, or to find somebody for $10 million. You're filling innings and you're making sure you don't have to overexpose Matthews or Doyle or maybe a young pitcher that we've forgotten about because he had elbow surgery who's actually healthy.
6-year minor league free agents out there.
Yeah,
so you can get 10 of those.
You can
guys
fill innings cheaply
for $1 million each. Yeah,
if you're not expecting to win, you can fill innings pretty cheaply. What I'm thinking.
Yeah, and you can still fill innings, and you can build a Memphis shuttle. Some of those guys will pitch out of the bullpen. And here's another thing you're going to have. You had a championship team last year in Springfield, so a lot of your Memphis rotation is going to be with pretty young starting pitching because Motts is going to be down there. That whole Springfield Cardinals roster is probably, most of it is going to be move up.
Does the farm system for the Cardinals, and another great video from Bernie Miklasz, check it out on STL Sports Central, and now you guys can subscribe to be an STL Sports Central Insider, which gives you all of the Bernie Miklasz content behind the paywall as well. He put up a great video talking about Chaim Bloom and what he did to take the Cardinals up to, I think it was FanGraphs, who has ranked the Cardinals farm system ranked as number one in baseball. Does that ranking maybe change your mind? Obviously, you're leaning more towards getting the more major league ready pitcher anyhow.
Mhm.
But does that maybe tell you, listen, the team can afford to maybe sacrifice some potential in 2028, 2030, and try to get a pitcher who will impact this team from the get-go? Does that go into your thought process at all in this?
Yeah, you can do that. And I'm intrigued by the fact that there's apparently more interest in Pedro Pages than I thought. Now,
Yeah, that's crazy.
I know that Ollie loves Pages, right? Because he's a very good defensive catcher and they're hard to find. But again, you had Bernal win minor league Gold Glove. Herrera wants to catch, and not that I want him to catch, but he does. And you've got Rodriguez on the way. And now all of a sudden, well, not all of a sudden, but it's gradually happening. The catcher position, which used to be the domain of defensive players, is now turning into more of an offensive position. 8 of the top 13 catchers in OPS in Major League Baseball in 2025 were in the playoffs. And I'm not saying that they were deficient defensively, but what I am saying is that I think the expectation of teams for defensive catchers being able to hit is growing. You look at Drake Baldwin, the National League Rookie of the Year with Atlanta. You look at Will Smith of the world champion Dodgers. You look at Alejandro Kirk, the catcher for the American League champions. You look at Cal Raleigh of Seattle, who finished second in the American League MVP voting. There are a lot more offensive catchers now. And if the Cardinals feel like they can get offense out of Crooks, out of Bernal down the road, and definitely out of Rodriguez down the road, I think that's something that would be worth exploring in terms of moving a guy like Pedro Pages and then just keep a Pozo around as a backup. Have a Crooks Pozo. Again, if you aren't going to win, let's see what Jimmy Crooks can do at the major league level. Left-handed hitting catcher is a pretty valuable piece of property to have. And then Pozo can play, 30, 40 games and continue to pinch hit. And if Crooks gets hurt, who do you have sitting down in the minors? You've got Leonardo Bernal, who's a switch hitter, and you got him at AAA, and he just won a Gold Glove. So you will probably not lose anything defensively if you bring Bernal up.
The trade that a lot of that Gould brought up was the one that the Padres and the Royals, again, they got Kolek and another pitcher for Mean, the very defensive catcher. But I wonder if, just like that one, I wonder if Pages' best value is going to come mid-season when a team realizes that their catcher they had either gets injured or in their backup just can't handle a pitching staff, and you have to squeeze a team literally at a moment where it's a team like the Padres who are contenders and they figure out this is one thing we need to kind of get things right. I just don't know if a off-season trade of Pages really is going to make a lot of sense for the value perspective. We already talked about that. We both kind of agree. He seems like he's more valuable with the Cardinals than he is on the market. And that trade being thrown out, it really, I think we can't ignore the fact that trade was mid-season and came when the Padres were in a pinch. I can see you pinching a team that needs that defensive catcher. I can't see a team not having some kind of other defensive option in-house already in the offseason to where you're going to get that same value.
You would think that would be the case.
Right?
Right.
But maybe not.
So, it's a tough situation. And the reason that I would suggest, if the Cardinals are interested in this and if they want to get in on the offensive catchers, number one, if you don't expect to win, find out what Crooks is. I think finding out what Crooks is for me, if I'm not going to win, that development process is more important than having Pages behind the plate trying to suppress runs. I know that that's not Ollie's thing, by the way. I know Ollie wants to win, and he believes that because of what Pages does behind the plate, he gives the Cardinals a better opportunity to win than any other catcher they have in the organization.
If simply Raniel Rodriguez or Leonardo Bernal or Crooks, if any of the three guys didn't exist or were in a different organization, this entire conversation would be different. If two of them were in a different organization, this entire conversation would be a completely world different. The bottom line is they're both talented players. And heck, if you trade Wilson Contreras and maybe somebody can play first base, this would also be a different conversation.
Yep.
But Wilson Contreras doesn't want to leave, so we don't get to have that conversation.
If Contreras would go, then Ivan Herrera would become your first base.
Everything changes. But that's not the fact. One thing I have seen from people around town, and Just Time STL brought it up, and so this is not against you, Just Time, but I got to bring this up. This is the one thing that cannot happen. pair Donnie with Nato so you don't have to pay any cash out. I do the same with Newt and Gray. No. Newt and Gray, fine. Donnie's, you cannot sacrifice.
He's got value.
He's got value. Donnie does too, or Nato does. My thing is, you can't sacrifice Donnie's value to save money. No. You cannot do that. That would be the most egregious mistake this Cardinals ownership could make, and say, to save the money on Nato's contract, we're going to sacrifice the potential prospect or pitcher we're going to get for Donnie. That would be an egregious, complete mistake, and that would be the one thing. That's like literally the only thing the Cardinals could do that could piss me off this offseason, is to tie those guys together to save themselves $10 million on Nato's contract.
You do that with people that you're not going to have next year anyway, like Helsley, Matz. Well, no, you do it at the deadline. Like when I said that in July, I said Helsley, Matz, Maton, send them to the Dodgers, who are desperate for relief pitching, and then say, but you got to take Arenado too, and then don't worry about who you get back. But you don't do that during the offseason, and you don't do that with a guy, again, that 15 teams are interested in. The Cardinals can't be that desperate to move the Arenado contract, and that would reek of desperation to move the Arenado contract. And I just don't think that they should be that desperate.
Honestly, though, the Newton Gray one, and I don't know how you could do this. I'm trying to think if it makes sense for a team to take a little bit extra Gray money for like the potential that Newt gets healthy and gives them this StatCast wonder, 120 OPS plus, solid defense in left, good eye on the ball at the plate. Like, does a team pay an extra like $10 million of Gray's contract, or maybe like an extra $8 to $10 million of Gray's contract, for the risk of Newt Bar becoming a legitimately solid StatCast darling for them? That one, I don't like the first half. I really hate the first half. I'm kind of intrigued by the second half, though, of Newt and Gray together. I kind of like that.
Yeah, and again, you have to get quality in that deal. Quality being somebody that can help you in 26. And see, the thing is, you got to trade Sonny Gray, and you're going to get somebody back that's not as good as Sonny Gray is. And then Newt Bar is the value that the other team gets, and you hope that they'll pay a little bit more of that salary.
Yeah, exactly. And so, man, I didn't like the first half, but I'm kind of intrigued by the idea of getting a little bit extra money out of the Gray deal by tagging in Newt, because if you're just paying for the risk as opposed to giving the Cardinals a prospect for the risk of Newt, I think it's a little bit different. You'll pay for a 1-year risk. Same thing, like there's no such thing as a bad 1-year deal. If you're paying an extra $10 million of Gray's contract to take the risk on Newt, it's different than potentially giving up a prospect. I really like that. Yeah. I like what we're throwing out here. The chat's doing things here.